The Thick Red Line project came out of discussions with sheriffs, deputies, and police officers that didn't want to be enforcing victimless crimes or raising revenue on their friends and neighbors for politicians. ThickRedLine.org. Howard, I went ahead and read the Thick Red Line, a little bit of the intro here about what you're doing and so on, to focus on real crime. And has it crossed your radar that Oregon legalized like every drug?
Well, it has crossed my radar, but that's, drug prohibition is only, one part of the many victimless crimes that the police are asked by politicians to enforce. And so and because they are being pushed into more and more tyranny, we're now talking about red flag laws and we're discussing mandatory vaccinations. They're really going to have to draw a thick red line in the sand and say, hey, there's a certain things that we're not willing to do. And so what we're doing with the Thick Red Line project is we're encouraging them to draw that thick red line at no victim, no crime.
So the victimless crimes, give me some examples of other crimes that, may be victimless that you think they're wasting their time on.
Well, I mean, anything that doesn't have a victim. So, under natural law, which has a 1,000-year tradition and is much better than politician law, there's about 5 real crimes. There's murder, theft, rape, and all of these are thefts. Rape is theft of sexual choice. Theft is theft. Murder is theft of life. And these are obviously wrongs because there is a victim and someone was wronged. And so when people talk about, I have a right to do this or I have a right to do that, the term right is anything that's not a wrong.
So your thing is that victimless crimes just seem to be, harassing the people and eating out their substance and their revenue enhancement, for whatever jurisdiction. And they don't like you. You didn't lick my boot enough. You don't respect my authority, and I'm going to get you for fill in the blank of whatever I think I can get you for. Is there some way of you're routing out the bad cops, or you're just allowing good cops to be good, or you're disarming bad cops with the crap they can make up to get you?
They don't want to be enforcing these lockdowns. And they would tell us flat out, we don't want to be doing this, but what can we, what are we supposed to do? And I had a kind of like epiphany, and I'm like, you guys get hammered one at a time if you stand up individually. So y'all need to all get together collectively, lock arms as a department and say, we're not going to enforce victimless crimes. And that really is the dividing line in morality between, is it really a crime? Real crimes have victims and victimless crimes don't. And so what the politicians do is the politicians write these laws either to try and social engineer society or raise revenue for their political schemes. And then they force the police to commit immorality, to use violence on peaceful people. And the police don't want to be doing it. And so now that now with the lockdowns, now that it really is, affecting, society in a really, really negative way, bankrupting local businesses, I wanted to help the police, say no to the politicians. And by saying no to the politicians, they instantly regain the respect of the people. And so it unites the people and the police against the politicians, and that's the real problem with policing. That's who's passing the quote-unquote laws, which I like to call politician scribbles, that are causing the racial and societal division. You get rid of those policies, it ends the lockdowns, it saves the taxpayers billions of dollars, it keeps peaceful people out of these for-profit prisons where they're forced to work as, in some cases barely paid slave labor. It ends the SWAT team raids. There's everything good. There's nothing bad. The people win. The police win. The only losers are the politicians. The police have the thin blue line, and they always talk about their thin blue line, this and their thin blue line. Everybody's got a thin blue line flag. You see all these thin blue line flags, flying. But there has to be a thick red line where the police say, we're not going to cross this line. We're not. And so a lot of police, you talk to them and they go, hey, we'll never do gun confiscation. We're not, so in their minds, the police all have a thick red line that they won't cross. But logically and morally, that thick red line needs to be no victim, no crime.
But I'm wanting to hear how you're promoting the thick red line. What's your bumper sticker slogans, and where your focus is and what people can do to help.
Yeah. So as I was kind of explaining, there's kind of 3 routes to getting your police department or sheriff's department to go thick red line. And really, the easiest route is we're looking for honest sheriffs that can just say, we're not going to enforce any more victimless crimes. We're not going to raise revenue on at the behest of politicians, and that would get their department before that, and everybody locks arms and just says, we're not going to do it. The second way of doing it is the town councils or the city council can instruct the police that we don't want you raising revenue on the population, what Sheriff Mack, who is a board of advisor member to the Thick Red Line project, calls taxation through citation.
Ooh.
And so I'm working, like we have, if you take a look at our press release at thickredline.org, we actually have a quote from an alderman in the city of Virgins, Vermont, where he says, flat out, I don't want our officers focused on, crimes without victims. I want them focused on real crimes with real victims.
There was a sheriff in Yavapai County, which is Prescott, that goes up to Ash Fork where Adam is, and, and all that kind of stuff. And Yavapai is a great, geographically, it's an awesome place. But it's always been kind of stricken off the radar as a place for freedom guys to go because the county's so corrupt, and they use law enforcement and the sheriff's department to enforce kind of what you're doing. It's a harassment thing. It's for the old boy network kind of deal. And they want to explain it to you. And I'm going, okay, well, someday all right, let's get explainified to each other. Well, this may be a mechanism, and he said that the sheriff in Yavapai County, a new young guy, seems like he's got it together. He's cool, he's interested, he wants to do the right thing. So while you're there, that might be, talk to the sheriff about Yavapai, because there's a lot of the freedom guys and so on are moving to that county. When they come to Arizona, they're like not wanting to be in the metropolitan area and it's only an hour and a half away up the highway and on the over the side of the mountain and a couple ways to get there. And you're in Yavapai County, and it's, could quickly be populated with our kind of peoples. And it might even include me and Donna a year from now. So in prep for Ernie to be able to find a place to live, I am motivated, to see what we could do to get in contact and try and start this kind of campaign in Yavapai County, in Arizona. So when you're there, talk to the Sheriff Mack about this and see what you can hook up, because you're not bashful about going and talking to these guys.
No, not at all. And I mean, but just to close out, the final thing is so in cases where you do have a dirty sheriff, it's a minority, but in the cases where you've got a dirty sheriff or dirty police chief, then the officers themselves can lock arms and just say, we're not going to do it as a department. And then what is the dirty sheriff or the dirty politicians going to do? There's nothing to do if 30, 40, 50, 100 plus officers say we're not enforcing victimless crimes. All they're going to do is they're going to bring the focus to the on the dirty politician and the fact that they shouldn't be doing this at all.